ia te mā tāpuna me ngā kōrero me ngā wakataka. E re kauana ngā tikanga o oku tupuna i ro ngā riporipo, ngā ngaru o te aroanga nei. Tai atu koutou ki te puna wai, ki te puna ora, ki te puna aroa, tangaroa, e rongo wake ia te kirunga ai, TA, maurira. Nau mai, whakatau mai, tātou katoa ko uruhi mai nei tēnei pō. E rau i te kite i te tokomaha kua uruhi mai nei i tēnei o ngā rahi. Welcome everyone that has arrived here tonight. Where this is also being live streamed, so I'm able to come in person. And there will be a chance to ask questions and things later. Sorry, I'm a bit nervous. Really don't like public speaking, but the call goes out. This is just something that we have to do. So, who am I? Ko wai tēnei e tuaki. Ko ai ni Simon tōku ingoa, kei mokopuna ni te awa supua o Rani. My name's Amy Simon. I'm born and bred here in Whangarei, and I am the Executive Assistant at the Whangarei Main Settlement. Kia ora mai tātou.
Kia ora, thank you, Amy. So I'm just going to run through some housekeeping. I've actually lost the sheet, so I'm going to go off memory. So firstly, toilets are on the bottom level near the entrance. So feel free to come and go as you need to. In the case of a fire, please find the nearest alarm, push it, and we'll all exit in an orderly fashion and gather in front of the museum on the forecourt. In the case of an earthquake, cover and don't, yay! In the unlikely event of an emergency, a siren will sound continuously. Evacuate immediately through the nearest exit and assemble in the forecourt. If the emergency is an earthquake, do not attempt to leave the building until the shaking has stopped. Drop, cover and hold, and keep away from glass and hanging pendant lights in the upper foyer and the main hall. A defibrillator is located in the lower foyer as well. There we go, that was a lot easier. So the way that tonight is going to run, and again, thank you all for attending, we are going to start off with introductions, and then we're going to get into a bit of a presentation of where the settlements are at, and then we'll go into question time, and as Amy said, there will be a chance for the public to engage in that section. So my name is Councillor Charlotte Melser. It's a real pleasure to be here with you tonight, and thank you very much.
Kia ora tātou, ko Josh Chandler-Mackay, tōku ingoa. My name is Councillor Josh Chandler-Mackay. I am a third-term councillor and a member of the Land Settlement Negotiations Working Party Council.
Kia ora tātou. Ko ki me tōku ingoa, Ujira, Nami kia ora. Nau mai hara mai, ana i tau ngā kupu hapitu i amutu. Ore ka Nami kia koe ai, e whakatūwhira tēnei kaupapa, tēnei pō.
Excuse me, the mic up so we can hear what you're saying.
Hara mai. Nore ka Nami kia pō ki meitu, nau mai hara mai. Ko ki me tōku ingoa, I came there and I'm the chairperson of the Whangarei Land Settlement, have been for a number of years, involved in many kaupapa within Whangarei. Kia ora tātou.
Nā mihi mahana kia koutou, ko Tracy Waitoki o tōku ingoa. So my name is Tracy, greetings to you all, and I am the project manager for the Whangarei Land Settlement. Nā mihi.
Kia ora tātou, ko Jenny Duncan tāku ingoa. I am a 14 councillor and I'm on the council's working party.
Kia ora koutou, ko Andrew Whaitōku ingoa. Kia ora koutou, ko Rebecca Tukuinga. I'm the Chief Crown Negotiator and I've led the Crown Negotiating Team through the settlement process. Good to see you all here tonight.
So I will just say that for those watching online, there will be some slides that are shown on the projector here, and you will be able to access those on the council website in the Have Your Say section. So please do follow along with that. And I think we will jump straight into that. Rick, if you want to give a bit of a talk about where the settlement is currently at.
Thank you very much for that. Can I have the first slide up? This is the slide that shows the negotiation process. It started, I think, in 2017, 2016 for the mandate. The iwi need to demonstrate to the Crown that they have a mandate to undertake the negotiations, that they have a defined area of interest, and that they represent genuinely the people that they say they do. Once the mandate has been confirmed by the Crown, they then move to the terms of negotiations. The parties then set out what the terms of negotiations are. The next part of the process is the negotiations commence, and at the end of that initial process there is an agreement in principle that has been signed, and having settled the agreement in principle, we then move to finalise the deed. This is to get down to the detail, the nuts and bolts, and we're almost at the end of that process, and we are looking at initially the deed of settlement in the beginning of next year, February or March. Now, once the deed of settlement has been initialed by both parties, you will then go to ratification. Go back to the slide, please. We'll go to the parties will then. The iwi will take it out to their people for ratification, and once it has been ratified, the deed will then be put into Parliament. It will become legislation passed into law, and when it is signed by the Governor-General, it becomes an Act of Parliament, and it then goes to the implementation stage. Next slide, please. The three elements of a settlement process is there is a historical account. The Crown will acknowledge the breach of the treaty, it will acknowledge the wrongdoing, and it will apologise for that, and there will also include an agreed historical account. As far as redress goes, it contains two elements. The first is cultural. This includes relationship redress, the transfer of Crown sites, statutory recognition of iwi's interest, protocols, place names, and deeds of recognition, and other elements in the cultural redress package. Financial commercial package includes money, Crown properties, and future purchase rights. It's important to say that with the negotiations, they are three levels: the past, the present, and the future. The past is the most challenging part because it's acknowledging the wrongdoings. It's going through some very painful parts of our history, but it needs to be done. Indian negotiators often turn to what the current situation is for their people, and that's the present. And then the negotiations turn to the future. And this part is what I guess we're here to look at tonight, is the future, not just about addressing the wrongs of the past, but what are the future prospects. And the Whanganui Land Settlement Trust team have been very focused on this element and have looked at doing things with the council and others to ensure that they address issues of the past and make it for a better future for all.
Thank you, Ian. And I might just hand it over to Josh to just speak about when the council entered into these conversations.
Yeah, thank you. Kelly, can we get the resolutions from 2018 up there? Yeah, so in December 2018, Council entered into made a number of commitments to work with the Whanganui Land Settlement Negotiators Trust on pursuing the treaty settlement with council involvement. So these resolutions essentially lay out the commitments that we made at the time. I won't read them all out because they are fairly comprehensive there, but you can see that we agreed to enter into a relationship agreement called Te Tomakane Ki Te Matapuhi. We agreed to progress the land claim with the Crown, and we also agreed to enter into a conversation about the establishment of a new entity to manage the number of key parcels of land and also social services as well, to make sure that they reflect the needs of the community. Those are two of the key proposals that you will hear about further tonight. Since then, the council has been involved in a working party working directly with Te Arawhiti, the Office of Treaty Settlements, and also with the Whanganui Land Settlement Trust on the specifics of these proposals. We have conducted a number of very thorough site visits to understand the land, the history, the underlying ownership of that land that will form a part of this agreement. And we've also met with Crown agencies down in Wellington on 2 occasions now, one in 2020 and one a number of months ago, to pursue this proposal further.
Cool. Thank you for that, Josh, and bringing that to life. Ken, can you talk a bit more about, Rick mentioned that the treaty settlements are generally just between iwi and Crown. So why is it that we have decided to go a bit different and include council in this process with us?
I'll just go over here because I need to see everybody. And like, oh yes, sorry, my apologies. Which way? Right, okay. Kind of reflecting on my singing days. The question that Amy has raised is a very, very important question because it is different in regard to other settlements around the country. And we've made it always clear that there are major influences in our community, and in particular the council, who represent the community and us as a whole. And fundamental to our relationships have been making sure that we've had a value-based approach. We have values that permeate our relationship, and it's critical that, I think, at the moment we are going through quite a challenging time. But if you don't have values at the core of your behaviour and attitude, etc., we could go all over the place, or titi hai. And so values, from our point of view, are critical in ensuring that not only with the Crown, that we have a relationship with the council, namely our community, to ensure that we can move forward. And up on the next... So you'll see this particular slide here, the tumatanga ki te matapiti, the relationship agreement, and matapono, and you'll see these wonderful sayings at the top, te uku and tarino, te uku representing us as iwi and hapu, and tarino representing the Crown. And in very simple terms, what the Crown has done wrong, the Crown needs to ensure that they right that wrong. But this is a reflection of the gateway into our tribal domain, in through our hapu and iwi, into our community as a whole. And we've been articulating this for a very long time now. And these old sayings, by the way, they are old. They haven't been put together in the last 10, 20 years. They've been well articulated by our old people 150, 170, 180 odd years. And this is not some sayings that have been put together by Ken and co. So in the context of our values, your word is your integrity. If you put your integrity on the line, then you've got to uphold it at all times. Decision making. Everything we do should be mana enhancing. We do it together, we work together. The whenua, making sure that the health and well-being of our land is uppermost in our minds. That is, it's at the core of everything we do with our land, with our community, with the Awa Tupua. And so what we've tried to, and I think reasonably well now, is to ensure that these values, these matapono, permeate our thinking at all times. And for us, regard to the council, the community, we want to make sure that it's been an inclusive approach, that there is mutual benefit and opportunity. And we do think seriously that there is this opportunity and mutual benefit in regard to the three of the matters that we are proposing in our discussions with the council and yourselves as the community. And as articulated by Josh, I'll say Josh, the value-based approach. The second issue is, of course, pulling together a statutory board of some of the reserves of which the underlying ownership is with the Crown, not the council, the Crown, and to ensure that core the health and well-being of the land. And so we think it's getting back to Amy's question, we think it's a wonderful opportunity that for our community, for our council to come on board and have a real relationship of substance with our hapu, with our iwi, right across the board. And look, the reality is, when you look at hapu and iwi around the country and their settlements, they have been major influences with their community. Yes, we started a little bit earlier in the context of saying, well, we want to do it right at the beginning. Not wait 10, 15, 20 years down the track. Let's do it with our council and our community now. And to be quite frank, many of our community, once they've heard, once they've listened, and certainly once they've understood, feel very, very comfortable in regard to moving forward together. So on that note, I know Amy would be wanting to say I've said too much because I've covered everybody else's, but those that know me will know that we'll just go with the flow. Kia ora tātou.
Yeah, from now on, I think I'm going to keep you sitting next to me, so you don't go a bit too hard. I just want to move on to Andrew. Where does the council stand in this process at the moment?
So this is my version of things. So I've obviously in the last couple of years had to pick up on understanding where we've come from. It's really important to do that. This actually goes back hundreds of years, really, not just the last few years, but council's involvement occurred probably about 2018, where it came in properly, where you saw those resolutions passed. Currently, where it's at is the Crown have been negotiating with our iwi on the land settlement. It's nothing to do with council. That is a Crown iwi negotiation. And I think a lot of people need to understand that because they think that council are involved in it. We're not. So from a council perspective, we're really interested in what happens post-settlement. And there are a number of activities happening post-settlement. And a new trust, just in my notes here, is called Pakapo Wainiki, which is the post-settlement structure. There's 3 initiatives as part of that. The first one is a relationship agreement, which you've seen there, called the Tomakanga Tutamapiki. The second one is a joint boards for reserves management, and which is reserves and parks. And really, what you'll see from a public perspective is nothing will change. It's just an unencumbered access to what we've always had, and we'll continue to have that. And the third one is a collaboration on local wellbeing, which is called the Toitu Tawano. And this is an agreement, in particular, between iwi hapu and our council to affect change in our community from a social perspective in particular. And I think this is where this is the most exciting, for me, the most exciting part. Everyone might have their own exciting bits part of it to it. For me, this is where we stand back and we acknowledge, I think, across New Zealand, actually across the world, health is not getting better, education is not getting better, crime is not getting less, and you could go through quite a list on your own hand. So what we're trying to do is do something a little bit different. The system's not working, the system is quite broken actually. And me standing back in my role, I'm looking at our country and thinking things aren't getting better, so let's dare to be different in Whanganui. We are innovative, we're creative in Whanganui, we're dare to be different, we've done that in the past, so this is an opportunity for us to dare to be different in the future where decisions will be made with our community, with whānau, with family at centre, for all of our community, not some, for all. Doesn't matter who you are. If you're in this Whanganui catchment, it's for you, it's for everyone. And what we're really seeing is that we think we can do things differently to affect change for the better for our community in relation to what's happening across the rest of New Zealand. It doesn't mean we don't partner with Crown agencies or government agencies or the ministries, or still. But basically what we will do as council, and without iwi hapu, is we will listen. We're on the ground with our people. It's called subsidiarity or localism, where when you're on the ground, you're hearing from people, you're listening to them, you're interpreting what they're saying, you understand where their journey, you understand where they're at, then you can better affect change. If it's done from central Wellington, whether it's the Beehive or Lambton Key or in Wellington from government ministries trying to bring it across the rest of New Zealand, telling us how we should administer change in our communities, it's just not working. So we think we can reverse that and do it differently in partnership with iwi hapu and council and government agencies coming on board.
And Rick, can I just get you to speak to that, and to, from a Crown perspective, what is being asked of council, and how do you think that this can play out successfully?
Well, I do think the first point I'd like to make is that no one thinks that the system is working perfectly. Every government has tried to make improvements. The blue team with Bill English was concerned about the investment the Crown was making and not getting the achievements that he expected of it, so he then changed that to look for investment for outcomes. The red team have tried, but we will accept that we're falling short of as good as we can get. New Zealand is really interesting in that it is very centrally driven. Nearly all of the decisions come out of Wellington, and as Mayor Andrew Tripas said, there's not a lot of flexibility at the local level. So what this is trying to do, the aim and objective of, for example, Toitū Te Wānau, is to join the council and iwi together and to engage with government agencies so that when services are being delivered in the area, it will be delivered via the trust. And they will work together and collaborate to try and join these things up. One of the criticisms that the Whanganui Lands Trust has made is the Crown has a one-size-fits-all. That it is individual based, there's two individuals, and each agency within the Crown has its own processes, and they're all separate. So people have to go from door to door to door to door. So what the essence of Toitū Te Wānau is to have a family-based, whānau-based, rather than individual. If you want to best help the individual, you need to help the family. And secondly, to then join up these services. Now, this is going to be a long journey to get to the ideal, but you need to make a start somewhere. And the interesting thing here is that in most places, where there have been relationships between council and iwi, it has been very much at the operational level. This concept is quite different because it's looking at it from a strategic level, it's looking at it from across all of the community, for all of the community, in a completely joined up way between iwi and council. So that's the objective of it in terms of Toitū Te Wānau. With regards to the Lands Trust, well, the objective of this is quite simple. The council has land, iwi will get land. Rather than have them separately managed, to put them together into one entity to govern, so you can have some uniformity across them, and so they can be developed for the total benefit of the community, and they will reflect a vision for the community interest. So that's the purpose of this. Council will bring its relationships in Tuiruana and the structures it has. Iwi will bring its relationships. As part of the settlement process, Iwi will have relationship agreements with nearly all of the Crown agencies, MSD, MOE, Health, Stats, you name it, and they'll bring those relationships to it. So they'll be bending these things to a point via the Tuiruana Trust, which will be looking at it from engaging from a community aspect rather than from an individual basis. So that's the objective of this. This is quite different thinking and quite a different starting point, and aims to bring about a change in which the services are delivered within your community.
Cool, thanks for that, Rick. While the discussion is going into Tuiruana, can I pass it over to you, Trace, to talk a bit more about the proposed area that we're looking at for Te Tōhanga Tuiruana, the social wellbeing framework, and just elaborate a bit more about what this is and explain it to everyone here tonight.
Okay, Tuiruana is exactly what we say. It's wānau-centred. This has actually come from, it's just our natural well-being, really. It is based on a values-based approach of Tuiruana, and it's actually about wānau-centred. It's about our framework of how we, like Kenny was saying, we're doing things together, we do it centralised, and this is about what's unique in our backyard. And it's about our whole community and our whole well-being. It is about our iwi vitality. And initially it started off as a drive from our wānau, our hapu and our iwi, to say how do we look at well-being in our backyard. Because like we're saying, the current system doesn't work. And our people are one of the most vulnerable people in our own backyard. We're not even connected to our whenua. So while we're on a journey of resetting relationships with the Crown and reconnecting back to our whenua, we need to look at the well-being of our people and what that is in our tribal domain. And the first thing was trying to get legal effect to our values, of which the Crown doesn't want to do, but they will give it life through the relationships, through the Crown relationships, give life to our values. So for us, it's about this framework of Tuiruana. So for us, within the Whanganui Land settlement, we had to identify, you could call it a service area, but for us it's where our framework applies to. So we are an entity that represents the middle reaches of the river, to the river mouth, across the Kaiui and Whanganui areas, but it's about, that's where Tuiruana for us applies within our area of being wānau-centred and how we may look at what our strategy is for our well-being that includes everybody that is within our tribal domain. Not just our iwi, not just our wānau, but everybody. This is where we apply our values. This is how we give life to our values. We have to manaki everyone that lives in our house because we consider this our house. So that's our catchment area of Tuiruana, and where we apply our framework. So here I'll put here, our legacy, our aspirations, our future. The vision is we will strengthen all wānau by placing them at the heart of our well-being, decision-making to meet our genuine local needs. The mission is to uniting to improve the well-being of our wānau and community. The purpose is to reposition and redesign our well-being landscape by providing a platform for strategic governments to mahi ngātahi, so basically work as one. To provide the best possible position to improve the well-being of our wānau, hapu, iwi and hapori community within our Te Ware Kaho o Whanganui. So we consider the lands that we reside in as our house. So we're all living in one house and we've got to figure out how we do this better to look after ourselves in our house. So if we're being flatmates, we've got to figure out how we're going to survive together. The key strategy is to use a values-based approach to establish meaningful relationships. Tōti Tōana reflects true partnership, where our worldviews and practices are combined to guide strategic direction in a way that is responsive to the needs of wānau. So, the way we want to do this is we have an approach, and it's designed in 5 elements. Through the system, which is connecting across the systems to achieve the best outcomes for the wānau. Because we've already talked about currently the system's not working for us. So how else do we look at it? Well, we have to design a plan across the whole of what we say is a site, but actually the whole area within Wanganui, from the mountain to the sea. It's about Wanganui Tanga, because we only got Wanganui here. There's nowhere else in the world but here. And it's great. It is about wānau engagement. Wānau are empowered to make informed decisions and own solutions and actions relative to the circumstances they are in. It's about the resourcing, and it's not always about the dollar value. It's about the capability and capacity of ourselves to listen, to work together, to come together. Often we get some better results from each other when we've got no money involved. The minute the dollar comes involved, we all sort of become a bit divided. But actually, if we stay true to the real values of integrity, of the decision making, of the sustenance, we seem to get there a lot faster and a lot better. But the other thing is, the key to this has also been about our community, our backyard, about being wānau-centred and solution-focused. The awa and the whenua create a unique opportunity for us to make this change. So Tōti Tōana is about wānau-centred approach to our wellbeing. So that's our approach. So I mentioned before, we need a plan. We need to figure out how we're going to do this together. Because often we wait till we have something really bad happening in our town, and then suddenly we come together and figure out collectively how we're going to do this. So we are saying we need to work this together. We need to interweave all the stuff, which is about identifying those relationships and bringing them to the table to work on our strategy, not the agency strategies. Quite often that's what we drive instead of what's in our backyard. It is about our initiatives. It's about our whole ecosystem of our outcomes. It's about our iwi and hapuri vitality for all wānau. It is about our values, our systems. So, we currently have tupuna hapuri. Some know about it, some don't, but that's actually the new police station and the new courthouse build. That's been based on Tōti Tōana around this concept. It's not just a bricks and mortar of a police station or courthouse. It's a place where services are to be delivered for all our community. But how do we make it actually work the way we want it to work, not just a systemic approach? Well, we have to decide how that's been built in our town or where it's been placed, or how we have a relationship with it right from the light bulb moment right through to the outcomes that we need in our backyard. So having those right relationships is where we're utilising Tōti Tōana even now to work with all these agencies to say, you're in our backyard. We need to build what we need to build in our house, the way we need to furnish our house. So it's about having the right relationship. So that's just one example of Tōti Tōana working for us today in resetting relationships with the Crown. So, Tōti Tōana, the outcomes are about our wānau, about our people. It's about wānau ora. Wānau ora belongs to the wānau. It doesn't belong to any providers, it doesn't belong to any agency, it doesn't belong to any entities, it belongs to the wānau. It belongs to our families, it belongs to their journey, it's not ours. So whatever that journey is for our wānau, it belongs to them. Hapu ora or hapuri communities, it's how we have that connections, it's about how we get that back around. And for us, connecting back to our whenua is a big part of our hapu vitality, of having our voice, our hapu at place within our iwi, of being able to be recognised and standing strong and feeding our whānau with our whole community that lives here with us. It's about finding that leadership. That kaiwera is about that leadership for that whānau. It's about how we have that leadership to wrap around them and drive and guide for the vitality that's needed for all of us. It's about how we attain mauri ora, which is tuatiti kupu, tuatiti mana, tuatiti una. Mauri awa, mauri tu, mauri tangata. It's all of that. So that's the outcomes that we strive for our whānau, but it's about all the layers to bring us together. So that's the framework. And I think the biggest thing from our point of view is when our people, when our hapu and our iwi told us that we need to do something different, we had to include everyone. And how do we make that happen through this framework? We're in negotiations and everything's going to be quiet. We're not allowed to tell anybody. We're sorry. We're not very good at that. We're quite good at being transparent and maybe not get quite there yet. But it's really important that we do share this with our wider community because they need to understand where we're looking at through this lens. So, as I said before, it started off with trying to get legal effect to our values, just like we have with our awa. I know, kōrero. And we have got that in the slide, but what we have got is they've agreed to give life to our values through these relationships. So it's important that those relationships that have been established on behalf of, with the Crown, through these relationship agreements, for our hapu, for our iwi, through the PSGN, through, as we call them, our rena wātoro, our different arms that do things on our behalf, to come together and drive these relationships for the best outcomes for our whole community. It is about having a plan and figuring out how we do this. It's about sitting down and having the right cup of tea to figure out where our priorities are, how we do this together. And hence the reason of the creation of this board. It's not about taking away from all the providers or the new entity. It's actually about making sure we're on the strategic governance group together, but also how we have te tiriti chickens for our settlements. How we ensure that what we've got is quality assurance. So this helps us do monitoring, anyone that's a provider will know you have to go through all these audits to have all these accreditations and stuff. Well, how do we do that back when we're in a relationship of resetting stuff for the ground, for our community to help us measure this? Well, this entity is one of those ways we might be able to do that. It's unique, it's different, but we can do it together. So Tuatiti Wānau as an entity is based on that. But most half of this is it's about our value set and our framework, that we're offering an opportunity to do this with us. It's Tuatiti Wānau.
Thank you, Josie. So you spoke a lot about values and this framework being values-based. For those that might be hearing this for the first time, can we hear about what these values are, what these values are based on?
Well, Tuatiti Kupu is about your integrity. If you're having a relationship with integrity, it's about being truthful, being particular, being honest about what we're at the table for. If you don't like it, that's okay, you can say so. But if you don't like it, and you want to change it, come with a solution. Come with that true integrity of what you're coming for. Tuatiti mana, it's not about a person's mana, it's about our whole environment that we're in. It's about our house, like I said, it's about our land, it's about our minerals, it's about us all living here on the moon. And how we need to make those decisions that are, like Ken said earlier, mana enhancing, about being wānau setting, it's about the overarching of the world being a whole. It's about our planet, it's about our people, and definitely they are definitely before product and profit. The sustenance, Tuatiti Whenua, is about our whenua feeds us. How do we take that responsibility back to nurture our whenua for the sustenance of what comes back to us, for the future directions. That's about the values. It's not something that's hard, it's not something that just goes on Māori, that's the only world it sits in. Well, it's not. It's a whole, not just holistic, it's just a way of being. And if we're all holding those values, well, we should end up with a pretty good future. But sometimes we get lost. So it's about reminding us, come back to some of those simple things of those values. So that's my vision anyway.
So we have covered off the presentation of what Otuwhanu framework looks like, and we will open up for questions. If anyone needs has a question of clarification or questions about what it looks like, what it means for our community, please. And we will keep the questions quite brief if we can. One question per person would be fantastic.
Hi, I'm just wondering how this ties into the wellness indicators that we've got going under Grant Watson. I'm thinking now enshrined in statute and reported on annually in New Zealand, and we actually again in the entire world. Because what I'm hearing tonight is very much around what I understand wellness indicators to be all about long-term thinking rather than short-term thinking, and the wellness of the whole community for decades out. So I'm hoping there is a strong link and it's better, but I'd be interested in the comments from you and those about that.
I'm sure I was into this as well, but ultimately wellness is what we want for our community, isn't it? I mean, that's why I'm here. The reality is that we are not well as a nation, and like I said before, our health, education, pretty much everything that is that we want to be better is not. So having indicators and KPIs and outcomes that are aspirational, that deliver change in our community, particularly from a social perspective, that help people's lives become better is something we should all aspire to. And that's what this does. Project One is about actually daring to be different, because the current system is not working. And if anyone wants to disagree with that, that's fine. But I would stand here and that's what I would say from my observations right now. What we're saying is that central government have got a very important role, whether they're red or green or blue or whatever colour. The reality is, though, that we, like you know your family best, you know your children, you know your parents, you know your uncles and aunties better than anyone. We're saying that the same thing here in Whanganui as well. We know our people best because we're on the ground with them. We're in a community together as one, where we hear from each other, we listen to each other, we talk to each other, we understand what's going on. So to become well, to meet those wellness indicators, we can then have solutions for our community because we know what their problems are. I'm sure someone can answer that.
I think the difference about indicators too is in that kind of stream, you're all put into one basket. We don't put all of those indicators are our priority here in our background. So the biggest thing is outcomes from a whānau point of view. Because we can all probably tick a box for the indicators that have been set, often not from our backyard. But we can certainly take parts of that and say, we can identify and work on that, or we have the services here in our backyard that can deliver that, but we have to go outside our backyard to get a big part of that met. So how do we work to bring that to our backyard?
I don't think there's any conflict what I do think is that the wellness indicators are if you like, looking in the rear vision mirror of the car, looking back, measuring what's happened. What I think is different here is the point of focus is out the front windscreen of the car, looking at the future and how you can make things better and joining things up. And I don't think we have, as a society, really done as well as we can do in joining things up. For example, we look at the rate of truancy in schools, and it's worryingly high. And you can't solve that by just looking at the child. What you have to do is have to look at what are the issues going on in the wānau to resolve that. If you're looking at housing from the perspective of a housing provider, it's just a house. But we all know that the most important thing for health of a person in the wānau is the quality of the home. The quality of the home affects all of that. So there's all of these things that are connected, but we only look at them for a single point of focus. So I think the difference here is the Toitū Wānau Trust is looking forward, how we can make changes. The wellness indicators are looking at backwards and how we've travelled and where we are today. The last thing I'd just like to add in here is I don't think Tracy is quite, Ken is quite highlighted it. The new courthouse and police station is something which I hope will prove to be quite different. It was remarkable when it was being promoted. The Whanganui Lands Trust insisted that the mayor be involved in the discussions about the placement, the design and the layout of the court and the police station. Normally the mayor gets simply told we're having a new police station, that's it. And it's been designed to set out on a different way of engaging. The second thing about it, it's not just going to be a police station and a courthouse, it's going to look to have services around it which can help address the needs of what's happened on the courthouse. And as I understand it, the judiciary are really keen on looking at this because they see the people come in one door, deal with them, they go out the door, and there's nothing ever happens about that until they come back again sometime. We know that's a failure. We know there needs to be something different. And the new site is looking at attempting as best we can to make changes in that cycle. So this is Toitū Wānau working already in a way which people haven't seen before. I think it does provide an opportunity and it does offer opportunities for making change in quite an exciting and interesting way.
Thank you.
Kia ora. Firstly, I just wanted to say congratulations to everybody up there and all the teams that are behind you making this happening, because it's really heartening to hear this kind of innovative approach. My first question, and I'm sure I don't walk around with my head buried in the sand, but I only read about this in the paper this afternoon actually. I'd already missed the 11 o'clock session, and so I was really keen to come to this session, but I thought, has this been in the paper? Has it been advertised wider? Because I think it really is important that this message really gets out there, that no matter where you go, down the markets, in your local cafe, that people are really talking about what is happening here with this kaupapa. And how, I'm glad you brought up education, because I wonder how, I know you said you have to be inclusive of all agencies, and there needs to be that level of communication with like MSD, stats, I think there were others, but I think the board of our schools, all the boards of our schools need to have this type of engagement, because it's there where our tamariki are, our mokopuna are, that are at the impact of a lot of the well-being issues that we are seeing in our society and community. So I think engagement at that level is crucial. It's my personal opinion, to get boards, to get teachers, principals all on board behind this approach, which brings me back to how much effort is going to be put into really getting this out to our wider communities, our wider whānau. So I think that's really key. Thank you.
you want to speak to that, Josh?
Yeah, thank you, and you're absolutely right. I mean, we want to make sure that there's as much opportunity for people to engage on this issue and ask questions and seek clarification, because there is a lot of information to digest, and these concepts are, as has been discussed, they're new, they're innovative, and they're going to take some time for people to properly understand. So these two events are being live streamed, and they are going to be available on the council Facebook page and probably the website as well, for people to go back to. And we're also looking at holding about 4 engagement sessions in January as well at various points, and they will be advertised prior to them taking place. One of the reasons we did 2 sessions today, one at 11 and one at 5:30, is because we acknowledge that not everyone can make an 11 o'clock session. And so we're trying to be as broad as possible to ensure that all people, no matter what their circumstances, are able to engage in this process. There's also on the council websites, the slides have been uploaded, that's my understanding, and a number of the other documents associated with this work program. So yeah, we really are trying to be as upfront and transparent as possible about this conversation.
Thank you, Josh. Yeah.
Yes. Couple of slides back. Can you go back a couple of slides? No, it's just like, there's a fact up there that council meeting, that there was a couple of councillors opposed. Yeah, that's on. Councillor Charlie Anderson and Rob Veisen, I see, independent. This one. Now, what's their situation on this proposal going through, resolutions going through now?
Thank you, Bear. It's just that Councillor Bennett is no longer a councillor, so he's not part of it, and Councillor Vincent is very much in favour of what is happening. So, the 6.9 that he voted against is about Koichi Tawano, and in our recent council meeting he voted for that. Okay?
Are they all clarified now?
Yeah. There's always some few questions that need to be answered, but this is an evolving process.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Just a question for our Mayor. One of the main problems that we have in Māori engaging with your corporate organisations is we don't have the same executive say. At the end of the day, the last decision was left in your hands or the hands of the Crown in some way. Also, so my question is to you, would you allow in a process where we actually really share that top decision-making process, where you look at the ultimate ethical process that we can employ besides fairness in how we go about decision-making? Because the ultimate ethical program, we may not actually have enough ethical people to run it. Because the ultimate ethics is that you debate it, and the opposite side will just make the decision for you. And it's the same again. If Māori had to debate an issue, we will debate it in front of you and with you as what an agreement and a working partnership should look like, but we will give that right to you to make the decision for us. That way we both are actually sharing the decision making. Because you talk about solutions and looking out of the box and thinking about this, well, let's look at the ultimate ethical system that we in Māori could possibly come up with. And if that's where you debate it in front of the Māori, we will make you a decision. We'll take that off your shoulders. And Māori will debate their issues in front of you, and then you get to make the decision for the Māori. I think over a period of time you'll see a deeper empathy and compassion develop for each of the two cultures that can still grow together. instead of having your authoritative structure that we've been working with, because as you can all see, it's not working. The services aren't being rolled out to the rural communities because basically the Crown and its agents, the EV and its lack of vision, are also not sending out these rural communities the services that are required, because the programs you're designing are for a centralised living style. Well, you as Kiwis are also going to ask yourselves, do we want to go into the future as urbanites? 20, 30 years ago, Australians had to ask themselves, well, who are we? How do we identify nationally? Well, they ended up with realising that who they were was a myth. They created this myth about who they were. So now I think it's time that we, looking at creating a new nation, start looking at who the hell we are as Kiwis. If I was to ask to you, well, what's Kiwi? Describe to me who a Kiwi is. You get 5 million different answers.
Can we get a clarification on what your question is there?
I'm trying to get across some points because I'm listening to your panel and it's all lovely, flowery.
Yeah.
Yes,
So what's your question, sir?
Okay. My question was, do you see that there is a possibility that we create an ethical, an ultimate ethical model in which we can operate under? Do you see the what I've just illustrated is the fact that you debate it, we'll vote on it, or we'll debate it, and you vote on it?
We're a democracy, yeah.
Thank you very much.
There's a lot to unpack in that question. The first thing is that I think 12 councillors and the mayor are elected by the community to make decisions for our community. When we're required to consult with our community, we do. When we're required to engage with our community, we do. With our iwi hapu, there are views from our iwi hapu that say that what we also do with our iwi hapu is we engage with them up front and early before we embark on decisions as well. The fact that we're sitting here right now with our iwi hapu is a signal that we are here to make decisions for our community with our iwi hapu, with others in our community, all our community for the betterment of them. As far as ethical decisions go, look, I'm not sure where you're going with that, but I would like to think if there's anything that we're doing unethical, if that's what you're asking, that you challenge me on that or challenge us on that, because we've got nothing to hide. And if you think we have, then come and ask us. But the reality is, on the ground, we are here to make the best decisions for our people. Toitu Te Wānau is about saying that we don't believe we're getting the best outcomes for our community, so we're daring to do something different for our community, because we think we can do it better than the way that things have been done in the past. I don't know if that answers your question, but hopefully it's a start.
Thank you, Mayor Andrew. That was fantastic. And Josh, can you just...
Yeah, thanks for the question. And just a couple of additional comments. The first one is that council is, while it's always good to be innovative and while it's always good to open the doors and welcome as many people as possible into the decision-making process, we're also what you call a creature of statute. So we have specific pieces of legislation, like the Local Government Act, that lay out how council makes legal and binding decisions. And so it is quite prescriptive in that sense. But one of the comments I would make is that over my time on council, the way that we make decisions around, say, new policies and strategies has evolved considerably. Previously, what we do is normally work up a policy and we go out for consultation and say, hey, what do you think? And then make a decision. Now what we do is we bring the key parties to that issue. So say it's climate change, for instance. We actually worked up our climate change strategy alongside alongside Federated Farmers and other interested parties, worked up the draft document, then took it out for public consultation. before we then agreed on the final document. So we are evolving in that sense. There's always going to be improvements to be made, but I like to think that we can be inclusive as possible in terms of how we develop new policies and strategies and make decisions. Go on.
Chief.
Kia ora. I do want to acknowledge Whanganui Land Settlement and the Whanganui District Council for being proactive in terms of having this conversation. Listen, I've sat at the table in terms with our fellow Hapu Regs, and the debate has been robust. We haven't necessarily at times landed, but however, there has definitely been support in terms of Tūki Department concept and how we articulate them. Evidence already suggests that in terms where there has been district council, city council relationships with post-settlement entities, it's been to the benefit of the community. Waikato is an example. Waikato is just another example. However, that was over 30 years of in terms. And I know that Kent, that part of this is a bit of a mandate because at the end of the day, we're still charged with the responsibility of growing intergenerational wealth through settlement, as well as providing opportunities that as a community, that we can prosper from. I've got a son who wants to come back home to live in Whanganui, no different from others, who want to live actually in a community that is vibrant, and Whanganui is. I do want to acknowledge also that I've seen the council champion certain aspects in terms of the Māori laws, in terms of marae investment, at great cost to your own personal reputations through the social media backlash. So I do appreciate it. The question that I'm pointing to is that we tend to think of it in terms of electoral cycles, and not much beyond that. My question is challenging in a way. How past, that some of you may not be here next year in terms of electoral cycle. How is this going to be established? Because in terms of parties coming in, going, new thoughts coming in, 22 actually refers to permanence. A permanent means of coming together to robustly debate what that looks like beyond an election cycle. So I'll be interested because I think in terms of wellness extends beyond a 3-4 year term. It's a considered strategy based over time. What does that look like? What thinking has been made to actually more than introduce the concept, but embed it?
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Chief. That's a really great question. So we do live in the election cycles at the moment, which are very brief, 3 years. This will really be established before we hit the next cycle. Toitu Te Wano, for example, because there are 3 elements today, but Toitu Te Wano is a tripartite agreement between Crown agencies, iwi hapu and Council. And so if there is significant change within Council, the other 2 parties still have those strong legs. So I think in that respect, it is protected by those 2 strong legs. It is imperative for Council to embed our role in the process as well as we can before the end of next year, probably before August, which is a bit of a too soon. So I think it's going to be really difficult to do those things before the election cycle. But what we need to do is ensure that people have a clear understanding of the immense benefit to our community of participation in this and ensuring that it does work. So it's early days, and I do hope that at some point you're deeply involved in that, and that we can ensure that things are embedded in a permanent way. Things can't be absolutely permanent because, as we know, things evolve over time. But we want this to be embedded in our community just like you do. So we will be doing our best to ensure that we enrol
our colleagues, our council officers and any candidates that stand for council that this is actually the best thing for Whanganui in a really long time.
Yes, Jeff, it's a very, very good question in regard to electoral cycles and being at the whim of politicians. I'd like to think that, we like to think that in part it's been answered in the context of we've got to get our colleagues, we've got to get into the education system, we've got to learn, we've got to talk to each other and work through this, quite frankly, it's this major systemic change in Aotearoa here. That is ensuring that the decisions that are made at the centre are made here. And if we believe in a value-based relationship, then we've got to sit down and talk to each other, connect with each other, and learn as we move forward. And we've got to have values that are based through our lens as a community, as a hapu, and as a iwi. And what's fantastic about this, similar to the Aotearoa, which will, the values of the river, the health and well-being of the river, this also will be, from our point of view, a major, a first of Indigenous people with a council genuinely sitting down through a lens, a value-based lens, to work through our issues as we see it. Not imposed upon us from Wellington. Yes, they're there to help. Right? You won't find any other country, somewhere out there of course, but that is more centralised than Aotearoa. Generally, around the world, a lot of communities, rightfully from our perspective, take charge of their aspirations, social needs, etc. But it's different here, and the world first, unless someone can tell us otherwise, and we've done a bit of work on this, is it's sitting down, working this through with the local Indigenous people who have to be Honolulu, hapu, to find our own solutions for our own needs and aspirations. And that will outlive any political cycle of 3 years or 4 years. Rest assured it will.
Great. Are there any more burning questions about Toitū Tuana? Because there is still one more initiative that we do need to go over. So can I just...
Okay, so we're going to take one in the front, two in the red up there, and then I think we'll move on to the next presentation. And then we'll get... So we're just going to take 2 more questions, and then we need to move on to the next presentation. But there will be more of an opportunity to talk further after this event as well. So please go ahead.
Yeah, my only question is that given the period that this has all come out and the submissions are only open until February, is that right? Early February? This is a period where most of the public is distracted by Christmas and other things that occur at this time of the year. Is there any chance that submissions will be open possibly sort of later in the year? I'm not saying halfway through it, just to give people a chance to engage.
Sure, I hear what you're saying. Can we pass this over to Ray to talk about the time frames and why we're adhering to this period?
I think we'd all like to have more time, but sometimes time is not always on the side. The treaty settlement process is, if you like to visit it as a train, the train is about to leave the station on the beginning of March when the deed of settlement is initialed. At that point, the agreement is complete. Then goes out for ratification with iwi. If it's ratified, it then goes into the House. These things, the Crown's view is clearly that this is a full and final settlement, so we don't get this decision made by then, it's too late. So, we have to move nimbly here. This is a little unfortunate, but it's just the circumstances as they are. I think it would be unhelpful to Wanganui Land, to the iwi, to unnecessarily hold up their settlement, because this has been years and years of negotiation process, and they want to settle it with the Crown, and they want the settlement to be effective so they can get on with their future life. And the Crown wants to settle with iwi so that it can offer the apology, work through the issues, and then say we are now looking to a new future. Not a future about grievance, but a future about prospects and opportunity. So this is the best amount of time we've got available. I just think we have to take it. Sorry about that. I'd like more, but I think to hold the settlement up till sometime in the year 2025 would be unfortunate.
We can't give any more time.
Yeah, sorry, just to add to that. So because of the timeline that Ruth has outlined, Council needs to have formally confirmed its decisions prior to that. And so because of the timeline being early 2025, this is why we're using this period to engage as much as is humanely possible prior to making the decision in early February. Because we're a minor player in this, and so we need to make sure that we've done our thing before the deed of settlement is signed, and so that's the reason for it being that awkward kind of time frame over Christmas.
Thank you. And our final question for the section.
Thank you. Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Jane Kākaunga. I've only been here 3 years. I'm very impressed. I think it's fabulous. We had a question earlier, and also I heard Josh mention the Local Government Act. One thing that I wonder, and it may be work in progress, it might take years, but how much change do you anticipate this process will affect within council procedures and decision making? Because Toitū Te Whānau is absolutely on is amazing, but it feels somewhat restrictive within the local government framework, as well as the 3-year election cycle. So I'm just a little concerned about how this will play out. Maybe we don't know yet.
I think that's probably quite fair to say. But Andrew, would you like to speak to that? So how we're going to give life to this?
It's a great question. This is, as I said, a world first, or as Ken said, it's a world first, it's something new, something different. We actually don't know how it's going to play out. Council processes are restrictive at times, but that's the way, as Josh pointed out, the Local Government Act requires us to follow the rules, and someone like me, I'd like to get stuff done. Sometimes it's a bit frustrating, but that is the reality. But let's look at Toitū Te Whānau, the initiative, this concept in and of itself. I think it's going to be incredibly helpful and progressive, and to actually untangle some of those restrictions in our community where we're not progressing. We're tied in knots, whether it's education, whether it's health, whether it's creches, whether it's school delinquency, school truancy, call it what you like, P addiction, other addictions in our community, drinking, alcohol, drugs, gambling, you name it. So Toitū Te Whānau's intent, a brave attempt to do something different, unencumbered by council processes. It's about working in our community, listening to our community, understanding and interpreting what the issues are, because when we listen to them, we're in our community, we can hear them best. We understand what's going on in our community better than someone making policy decisions in Wellington. And don't get me wrong, central government have a role to play in this, but we're saying that we want to listen to and hear from our community first, and work with central government to do that rather than just throw a one-size-fits-all or a blanket over the whole of New Zealand for policy decisions to affect change. We think we can do that differently through Te Whānau. without iwi hapu, without community.
If I could make just two quick comments to you. Firstly, I've seen no lack of ambition from either council or iwi. So there's no restrictions here. Secondly, there are other people who've shown a great deal of interest in this proposal and said, why didn't we know about this or think about this before? And I think there'll be others who like to follow. And it fits with this general philosophy coming through local government. They want to see more decisions and more responsibilities shifted from the centre to the regions so they may use them to adapt to themselves. So we might be just on the edge of the wave.
Great points. Sorry, but the other thing I'll add to that, I talked about localism or subsidiarity before, where localism is about making decisions as close to the community, as close to family as possible. The opposite of that is centralisation, where decisions are made for you. And what we're doing here is a great example of seeing localism through Project Wainga come to reality. It's where true decisions are made by you, by us, by all of us together for our community, for the betterment of our community, close to home.
And I think the other thing is, this is not about a transaction, it's about being transformative. And we already have a couple of great examples that this is working in our backyard because we're listening to those local communities. One's the port, and the other one is to put a hapu. Just even saying to Crown agencies, we do not want a custodial unit in our backyard. What we want is a care facility. So there's a change just even in that, because that's what our community said. So it's about transformation, not transaction.
Cool, that was really great. The last initiative that we did need to talk about tonight is Ngā Tūtea Maru. So this name was given for a joint statutory reserve board. For those that don't know, Maru is the atua or the god of freshwater. So the name Ngā Tūtea Maru seems fitting for this joint reserve board. Tūte is loosely translated as a guardian or protector. So Ngā Tūtea Maru are the guardians of Maru's domain. So I'll hand this over to Tracy and Kim to explain a bit more about the purpose and the functions of Ngā Tūtea Maru.
Thanks, Amy. We've got the slide up here. Very good. Okay. So, look, as I was saying earlier on, one of the most important aspects, if not the most important, is the point around the health and well-being of land. And sometimes people tend to forget that concept around health and well-being of land and the lake. So that's paramount from our point of view. It's at the core of our thinking as Iwi and Hapu and our community. Our board, the board that's proposed reflects a new era and relationship between our Iwi and Hapu, the district council, which sees the Tomokanga Pita Makapiti as the basis of the relationship. To uphold, the purpose is clear, to uphold and promote the health and well-being of the land and lakes by administering the Whanganui reserves in accordance with the clarification of purpose of each of the reserves. And our function is to give life to the Tomokanga in all of its decision making, being the administrating body of the land for the purpose of each reserve classification, for the purpose of protecting and enhancing the cultural, spiritual and ecological values. So for clarity, the lands, it's further down the track. There will be no change to the public reserves access. These reserves, whilst they're under the management of the board, Ngā Tūtea Maru. Repeat, otherwise we go back one slide. There will be an establishment fund. We've been able to negotiate $500,000, and that's for the purpose of establishing this board. And the makeup of the board will be made up of 6 members, serving a 4-year term, and 3 from our levy and upland, and 3 from the council and community. Now, there will be no change to public access to these land reserves under the management of this board. The reserves that are first up is Pukenami, Queen's Park, Kōrero, Kaiwi and Park Aituri. Park Aituri will come over to the post-settlement governance entity, but will be administered and looked after by this board. And the underlying ownership, as Rick will say with clarity, is the Crown, and the board's role will be to administer the health and well-being, the future of these lands, together with our community. And then there are these maps, and you'll see the red bits is what has been proposed in regard to coming under the administration of this board, apart from Park Aituri, where the ownership will move to the post-settlement governance entity. There we are. We've got through that very quickly.
Josh, can you just elaborate a bit more? We've had this question come up. What happens to the council buildings within these groups?
Yeah, thank you. So the answer to that is very simple. That the buildings that sit on top of the Pukenami, Queen's Park Reserve remain with council. So there will be no change in the ownership of the Southern Gallery, the Alexander Library, the Davis Library, and so on. So that will not change at all. And that's probably all I need to say, really, isn't it? And again, just to re-emphasise that public access is fully guaranteed. That's Park Aituri, not Pukenami.
The old courthouse is actually owned by Park Aituri. So there's owned presently. We just asked a question in regard to the old courthouse. It is actually presently owned by Ngātau Tiaki, one of our post-settlement governance entities, and the land itself will be transferred to the proposed new post-settlement governance entity.
I think the other thing for our community is a lot of our community didn't know that it was still Crown-owned property, that it was still being administered by the council that allowed access. A big part of this negotiation is how do we get connected back to the land, as we said, stolen, but still connect with it. So this was part of our aspiration, to get reconnected to Whenua, that we weren't connected to. And be part of it, be part of those decisions that still maintain the well-being of that land.
And just going a little bit further into that, so the land is currently administered by the Crown, and by the council, sorry, and who is going, what's the change in that administration?
Well, it's pretty straightforward, really. This board will administer and manage these lands. The underlying title will be still with the Crown, with the ability of the Crown to transfer it if they so wish. However, the state of play is at this moment, and when we signed the deed of settlement, this board will be the administrator of those lands. In other words, they'll manage this land with a small amount of two-tier money to be able to do that, and in regard on the operational side, nothing will change as well. The council continuing to look after the operational side of things as well.
Now we're going to open the floor up for questions around Ngāti Te Amangi, the statutory reserve
Congratulations.
I just wondered, what will be happening to the old courthouse? Will it be put to some use that's helpful and, you know, bringing the community together?
Well, as you're aware, the new courthouse is progressing very well, and the likelihood is 2027 and 2028. In regard to your question, that's yet to be worked through with the actual owners, namely the post-settlement governance entity, and I don't have my finger on the pulse in regard to that, but that'll be the appropriate one to ask in regard to the future of the old courthouse.
And there's one question at the back there.
Thank you. What I'm seeing here is our council seems to be forgetting that we are in a democracy, and there are 50 races living in New Zealand now, not like 200 years ago when 2 races could make deals and partnerships, but that should not be happening today. When I lived in New Zealand nearly 80 years now, and we were good up to 50 years ago, and then all this started. And now we're not trusting what's happening really, because we're seeing things done to Maupua Gardens, cost $250,000, and the ratepayers had to put that bill. The name was changed, and that was terrible. It was a Memorial Gardens, the Maro who died fighting to protect the Wanganui. And then it went to the name of Wanganui, and we tried to stop that, and that went through because government didn't seem to care. They needed the votes, I don't know, but thank God it didn't go. Death did not come in, because that is terrible what they've done to their own language from these part areas.
So sir, have you got a question? Have you got a question?
Question.
Have you got a question, sir?
Didn't Well, my question is, why are we going with all this partnership thing? So very water is stopped by the government. And now they're trying to push through a partnership. It will not work. Wanganui will not have it.
Okay, so thank you. So what I'm hearing you ask is, why are we going this way?
Yeah,
so thank you
why
very
are
much.
we going through this? You know, we're really a bit untrusted really what's happened up till now.
So I can only speak from my personal perspective, but I can tell you that why I support this process is because I believe in honouring contracts. Tītiri o Waitangi was a contract, foundational contract of this country, and this agreement is about this agreement is about providing redress for historical injustice, and it's about how we give life to that contract moving into the future. I thoroughly and completely support it and endorse it, and I think you should too.
Thank you. And we've just got one more question down the front from Alana Taki.
We have a two-part question, but my question is more so on the values overall. How will you ensure that rangatahi will understand the importance of these values as we are our future, and we'll need to carry on upholding these values and goals we are putting forward for our future generation?
As a rangatahi of our community, Rangatahi and Tamariki have been involved in many events like Te Aotutua signing, the Whakaitore protest, the Iwi March that's happened. We do have a lot of kaumātua and adults that are around, but they're not going to be around here forever. So, which means we'll be there next. But how will you ensure that, you know, this will work and we will be able to uphold the values just the council, our area as well, because you are both responsible for this. Yes. And for us. Thank you.
Am I allowed to answer that?
Yes.
I think I got the hardest one to answer. How do we ensure it? We've got to keep walking this pathway. We've got to keep making sure we're brave enough to have these conversations. And we've got to have the right cup of tea. And we've got to role model this to our future generations. We won't always agree, but how we walk the pathway together is what's important for youth. How we educate them with good values so that they can continue it. They know them. When they're born without the prejudice. They're born with a naturalness of enlightenment. And we learn from you, actually. So you ask us that question. One, we breed you. Two, we walk beside you. And we encourage you to keep going forward with all that you are. But we have to learn to work as one so they have the best opportunity to thrive and strive with their optimum ability.
Kia ora, Tracy. And I think to add to that, there's always going to be work to do in how we engage and who we engage with and who we prioritise that engagement with. And from my own personal perspective, I think that we all have a lot of work to do when it comes to engaging with our rangatahi and how we engage with the rangatahi and empowering our rangatahi to be a part of the conversation and a part of the plan. I will just go, just one last final question, and then
before you do that, I just want to speak to that as well. Thank you for that whānau, my darlings. It's really good to actually hear and see you be more involved in this space. I was about your age when I'd come into this space as well, so it is a journey. I am, I suppose, a product of the succession plan that my tūpuna have put before me. So my grandfather, my parents, my dad's one of the trustees on here, I'm one of the kaimahi, my babies were here earlier, and they come along to these hui. So we are constantly teaching our next generation to be part of the change that we want to see. It's about our succession, being courageous and brave to move into a space that's more intentional, more proactive, rather than living in the trauma that we always face. Toi Tūtuana is a tool to help us move out of that space as well. The relationship agreement with Te Tomokanga ki Te Matakahi is another tool on us improving our, not just our relationship, but how we work together on a day-to-day basis, based on those values of toi tu te whitu, toi tu te mana, toi tu te mua. And finally, even looking at Ngā Tūtea Maru as our statutory reserve board, it is looking at the health and well-being of people in place. We know that parks and reserves contribute really well to our well-being, so we want to be part of that conversation to ensure the sustenance of those spaces for us, for moa ki tonu atu, for everyone in the day.
Kia ora, Amy. Kia ora. Firstly, I just want to express my gratitude to the generosity of Iwi for putting this forward and bringing everybody along for this settlement journey, and you're contributing greatly, and I can see that, and I just want to say that's amazing. You're leading by example at a time where that's really needed, and at a difficult time for you to be doing that. So I just want to mihi you for that. I also want to kind of acknowledge in the room that there's a little bit of discomfort probably from some people, and that change is really confronting and kind of destabilising, and that's normal. But this new systemic way of going and of moving together and using these kind of alignments across multiple organisations makes so much sense. And I think silo thinking, we can all agree, is problematic because everything impacts everything. So I think this is a great direction to be travelling in. And if you are feeling discomfort with it, I just encourage you to maybe put your fear aside for a minute and settle your discomfort and just be curious and look for the treasure in this, because there's so much treasure. It's a really good example of where honouring the treaty principles means it's good for everybody. Because this is pure values-based stuff and long-term thinking. We're really short-term in our current systems. So my question is, knowing about this discomfort and this fear that exists, how do we cross this divide? How do we cross this divide? How can this new structure help cross that divide? Thank you very much for that, Helen. Do you want to speak to this, Jill?
I'll give it a go. Thanks, Ellen. How do we cross the divide? I think part of it is that people have become used to, especially our older folk, who are also our tauna, are used to a certain way of being. But the world is moving on, and it's moving on rapidly, and this country is moving on rapidly as well. And part of that process in New Zealand is a greater relationship between Māori and Pākehā. And you can interpret that however it goes through your own filter. But the things that are on the table today, particularly Toitu Toano, is an absolutely amazing opportunity for us to work together for our entire community for a much better outcome for our children and our grandchildren. For most of us, it's a little bit late for that big change, but for them it is not. And we do not want them to grow in a society that remains as this one is now, because it doesn't work. So we're being very brave, and I really do thank Ken. I think he's the guiltiest party here in the room on this one, and others, for putting this before us and having the courage to muscle it into a treaty settlement, because it's never been done before. This is new. If we're enabling this to happen within our community and giving us the opportunity to at least get our hands on our own issues and see what we can do to make a better world for our children and our grandchildren. So, you know, it's an absolutely amazing time. I don't know if I've answered your question, but that's what came out.
I'll have a crack at it. And I'll do it in a generic sense. It would be naive to think that there's no divide. It would be naive to think that there are people that have a different perspective, and we should respect that perspective. I think how we narrow that divide as a community, as a country, is that we have values at the centre in regard to all kōrero, all matters that face us as a community. And all we're offering is these values to ensure that we are able to work together to get outcomes that are proactive and positive for our community of Whanganui. Yes, and somebody would have heard this previously, we have to show courage as a community. We have to be committed to ensure we have the best community in Aotearoa. We have to show compassion to each other and understand that there are differences, but we mustn't sit in our own little corners and pretend that everything is going well. We have to sit together as a community, as hapu and iwi, and find solutions for ourselves. Courage, commitment, compassion, based upon a set of values that have come from this land of Aotearoa. And I think we're up to it. Seriously, I think we are up to it. We will go up and down now and again, but if we hold those values and we're committed to the well-being of us as a community, of our environment, we will get there. And we will lay, and we have been laying, the groundwork for our rangatahi, our young people, to carry. And I think it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. Kia ora.
Hey, thank you everybody for being a part of this discussion. I'd just like to pass the microphone around just to capture our panelists' final thoughts.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I just want to thank you all for being here this evening and to acknowledge that it is a really quick turnaround in terms of giving you the opportunity to engage and to ask questions. Really, my key reflection is that this is about not only providing redress for the injustices of the past over the last 200 years, this is also about how council can work with our iwi and hapu partners and the wider community to ensure that we give life to the relationships that form the foundations of this country going into the future. I think that's really important. And for me, it's about being innovative, doing things differently, and acknowledging that if you do something once and it doesn't work, let's try something different to deliver better outcomes for everyone. Kia ora.
Thank you, Josh. And you, Kim?
Oh, I think I've seen it. And I will, except to say, we really, really appreciate that you, as our community, have come out this evening, that have listened and hopefully take on board some of the aspirations that we have as iwi and hapu, and love to share that with yourselves and moving forward with a real relationship based upon the values that we've articulated tonight. So thank you very much.
Just Namahi, thank you for allowing us to share. And it is a reminder that while we're sharing this with our wider community, it still comes back to our people to vote on this, to ratify this. After we've had the feedback, after they've heard of the kōrero, that this is the package that they want to hear. So there's still another step past all of this. And it goes back to our people that mandated us to put us here. They are actually our decision makers. Amen.
Thank you. What I would encourage all of you to do in the next month or two is to speak to your neighbours and your family and your friends and encourage them to engage as well, so that when we have more of these community gatherings, they have the opportunity to come along and learn. And for those of you who are sitting there in discomfort and concerned about where this is going and what it could mean for you, just remember that when we sit within our comfort zone, we can't grow. We keep things exactly as they are. And we want things to be different. So we have to step outside our comfort zone, feel uncomfortable, and make things happen. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll just echo everyone's thoughts. First of all, thank you very much for coming today. And we had a good turnout during the day as well. This is the first engagement that we're having over the next 2 months, and just like Jenny said, the timelines are tight, so I just encourage you to talk to everyone to come along to listen and learn. The second thing I want to say is that we need to dare to be different. The system is not working. It's not. I've named it before, health education, put anything on your list. It's not getting better. We're struggling to fight against that, so let's do something different. The third thing I've got is a little bit random. I show a video quite often, a real video of in Canada. I know someone that was there. It's of the dancing guy. There's music playing, everyone's sitting down talking. He gets up to start dancing, everyone thinks he's mad. Then the next guy gets up, and there's 2 dancers there. Suddenly, 3 more people get up. They start dancing with the first dancing guy and the second dancing guy. And within 5 minutes, if you're not dancing, you're mad. and you're brave to not dance. But the first guy that danced was very brave. The people sitting on the ground at the end are equally as brave for not dancing. So my encouragement is that all our community come on board, and I'm not going to show you the dance by the way, because I can't dance or sing. But what I would also encourage you to do is to come on the journey and learn how to dance and be open to that. Sure.
What's the name of the band?
Can I just start with the response to the rangatahi? Look, I have no worries about the future. I'm deeply impressed with our young people today. I think they are better than my generation, more open, more inclusive, more willing to go and do things and change things. I think my kids are better than I ever was at their age. All my friends' kids are better than we were. I think the younger generation is outstanding. So I've got no worries about the younger generation. It's sort of my group that I worry about more. So the second thing I just say to the person who asked about the divide, there's always going to be a divide. It's just the nature of humans, really. But what generally changes people's attitude is by demonstration and example. They see things evolving and changing and realise slowly that their aberrations and misgivings are not materialising. The good always overcomes bad. I'm essentially an optimistic person. I always believe, as my grandmother told me, honey attracts more than vinegar. It's always good, always better than the bad. So let's move on with this. The last thing I would say to you is to echo the two other points we made here about change. Nothing is ever going to get better if we continue to do the same old things over and over again. We can only get things better if we make change. And we can't always guarantee that every change we make is going to be an improvement. I heard this when my young son was learning to sail. An old salt said to him, not every change you make to your boat is an improvement. But you won't know that until you do it. And so you therefore have to do this. And this is something quite different. This is remarkably different. And we don't know yet that it's going to work as we think. It could work better. But we do know this, if it doesn't work, we're Kiwis. We'll say, well, we tried that didn't work, we'll try something else. We do have to strive for better in our community. There are too many failings for us to sit there and do nothing. So this is about the community engaging, which I think is really wonderful. The community, through its council with iwi, looking about how they will take responsibility for themselves to try and bring about change. And there's no lack of ambition here. And to whether or not it will last forever, well, nothing lasts forever. You see civilizations have come and gone, and with this week, this regime in the Middle East is gone. Things only last because people believe them and people want them. It's within ourselves that we create that resolution and solidity of things. So it has to work for us. And when it works for people, then they will believe it and take hold of it. And it will survive, and it will endure. It's within ourselves to make it endure. And I think this has got every opportunity to do so. This has been a very exciting and interesting journey for me, and I've enjoyed every bit of it. I've enjoyed my engagement with the council. I think they've done a remarkably good job here.
Thank you to all of our panel members for sharing your thoughts and elaborating a bit more on these kaupapa so our people, our community can learn a bit more about it and be more informed. So after this, there is an opportunity to keep talking. We have a cup of tea and light refreshments next door in the Pioneer Room. So if you want to come along and have a chat one-on-one with any of the family members, that's an option. But just to wrap up here in this room, I'll wrap up with a ruluku. Tuia i runga, tuia i raro, tuia i roto, tuia i waho, tuia te here tangata, tia e maua.
Yeah,